Hello and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to do a proposed minimum requirement of Ash and Steel, a game that is currently in playtest without a release date yet, which is in my opinion a mix of Oblivion and Elden Ring. The proposed minimum requirement go as follow: i5-10600 or the Ryzen 5 3600, 16GB of RAM, the GTX 1070 or the Radeon RX5700 XT, 45GB of storage, and SSD is recommended. I mean, you can probably play on HDD, but not recommended. Welcome to Response PC, I'm Dunk, let's game on. Starting off with the i5-10600KF, because I don't have the other non-K, non-F, non-KF or whatever, 16GB of RAM, and the GTX 1070 non-TI. Normally when it's the proposed minimum requirement, we expect to play at 1080p lowest settings to get about 30 FPS, depending on the game. Some other game will be 60 FPS, like in a FPS game. For this case, I won't make you pass through all the testing I've done. I start obviously at the low settings with upscaling, and I was getting over 120 FPS. I dropped the upscaling and I put the settings to ultra. That was my last testing, and still at 1080p we got an average of 76 FPS. This is highly playable. This is quite extreme for a proposed minimum requirement. The GPU is back at 99%, the CPU is in the high teens to low 20s, and we're using 9.7GB of RAM. We get FPS going as high as 90 FPS when you enter a house, and as low as 72 in some area of the open world. They probably want you to make sure you're able to play the playtest, because again, this is a playtest, not even early access. So I'm guessing those proposed minimum requirement is going to drop lower, and on top of that, they're probably going to have some performance optimization throughout right now and the end of the development of the game. The gameplay was super smooth. I didn't encounter any bug whatsoever. So for a playtest, it's quite a polish compared to some AAA game that came out supposedly polished and run like junk. And it's no better on the AMD side. I mean, actually it's way better on the AMD side. The Ryzen 5 3600 and the RX5700. I don't have the XT variant as they propose, but it doesn't matter. Even the non-XT variant is doing much better than the GTX 1070. We now have an average of 84 FPS at 1080p ultra settings and no upscaling. And when you are inside a small house here and there, you reach over 105 FPS. GPU is back at 100% and we're using 7.8GB of VRAM. The CPU is in the mid-20s, like the i5-10600KF, and we're using 9.8GB of RAM. The frame time and frame graph is perfectly smooth. If the entirety of the game can run smoothly like this, even when changing zone, the proposed minimum requirement is way off, in a good way. I mean, you can have way lower hardware. In the end, this is only a playtest, not even an early access. Also, you have the GPU. That seems it can be way lower than that. Now, yes, we're using almost 8GB of VRAM, but you can drop on the RX 480 8GB VRAM, and we are playing at ultra settings. So probably even a 4GB, maybe even a 2GB VRAM card can play this game at low settings, but this will be for another video. I also test the Intel Arc GPU, because the proposed minimum requirement doesn't mention any Intel Arc. That video is going to come up this week or probably next week, so stay tuned. In the meantime, thanks for watching. See you in the next one, and subscribe.